Okay, toss-up. Who's the better wrestler, AJ Styles or Christopher Danielson?
Christopher Daniels. Brian Danielson
Brian
is coming
Danielson
up.
in the next topic.
All right. Everybody knows. Well, everybody's about to find out. I am a huge fan of Chris Daniels. I have been since his start in TNA Wrestling, which he's been there right from the beginning. That being said, I'll answer this question quick. Is AJ Styles the better wrestler? I think so. I think that AJ Styles has a great style. He has a combination of those X Division high-flying moves as well as some great, what I like to call storytelling wrestling on the mat, technical back-and-forth wrestling. He can really paint a picture in a main event and really make that match look awesome. Now, that being said, Daniels is also an excellent wrestler. He can do the same things. He's got those high-flying X Division moves. He's willing to take risks. He's very, very technically sound. Has some submissions that AJ Styles does not have under his belt. Great moves like the best moonsault ever, things like that. I think when you're looking at TNA, the company, they've always been behind AJ Styles. And of course, in wrestling, you only can wrestle as good and only be as good as they'll let you, as your personal glass ceiling is in that company. AJ Styles is a multiple-time TNA World Champion, NWA World Champion of TNA Wrestling. He has been a multiple-time champion. Chris Daniels hasn't. He's been a multiple-time X Division champion. He hasn't taken that leap to main event superstar, and I think he may not ever become the world champion. So as far as the glass ceiling that TNA presents him with, I don't feel like they let him be a good a wrestler as he can be. Both of those guys in a promotion where, maybe an independent wrestling promotion where they say, guys, throw it, everything you've got, balls to the wall in this main event, I think AJ Styles would still, even in that situation, come on top as a better wrestler. That being said, Chris Daniels deserves a world championship by this point, and he definitely deserves the respect of the fans as an excellent, excellent wrestler.
Chris Daniels, he was right there when they had the first him versus Styles versus Samoa Joe feud, and they took the horrible direction of trying to make Samoa Joe into this Goldberg-like figure. AJ Styles is the more popular wrestler, he's the more acrobatic wrestler, and he's the more successful Triple Crown champion in TNA. But I'm going to say that Christopher Daniels is the better wrestler, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not all about popularity and flashy moves. They can both wrestle the hell out of each other. But Christopher Daniels on the mic, this isn't even close. He blows AJ Styles
you're
away.
Right. You're absolutely correct.
Christopher Daniels can be face or heel.
At the drop of a hat, it seems.
AJ Styles, they had him as a heel for almost a full year, a year or two ago, and it didn't really work. Him and Christian, and he was just kind of like a childish figure who was looking for leadership and almost like, I don't want to say like an Eric Young type, but really kind of like a foolish. They didn't let him get it done in the ring when he was a heel because his character wasn't convincing enough. Christopher Daniels is convincing in any role that he takes, and he's just a phenomenal wrestler. So that's why I picked him.
I think that's an excellent pick. Here, let's throw another one in there real quick. Out of these three guys, worst wrestler: AJ Styles, Chris Daniels, and Samoa Joe.
Worst wrestler?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Samoa Joe.
Thank you.
Samoa Joe is terrible.
All right.
When he was in Ring of Honor, he put on some decent matches, and that feud between those three that you just mentioned was one of the. It was the best feud in TNA history.
Yeah.
And Samoa Joe is a very big part of that. So, I mean, I don't want to completely discredit him, but he's a one-trick pony. His matches are very repetitive, and now he's doing the what is his gimmick with the face paint and.
Here's the funny thing with the Nation of Violence gimmick.
Nation of Violence.
He actually still has it, but with the dissolving of the Main Event Mafia, he's now sort of on his own again and kind of acting as Samoa Joe, the person and wrestler, instead of Samoa Joe, the Samoan I'm gonna kill you warrior. He's kind of dropped that. He's actually lowered the face paint to just one little tiny thing on his cheek now, rather than a huge thing. He's acting more like the old heel Samoa Joe that just plain doesn't like people. And that being said. And the reason I brought this up is take a look on the upcoming episodes of Impact, because I think these three are going to develop a feud with each other again. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Chris Daniels, and I think it might be over the title, and I think it might be a really, really good feud. That's, given that, Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin don't come into the company and go on a Monday Night War for the, the TNA Championship. That not happening, I think we're going to see some good battles between Joe, Styles, and Daniels coming up here.
And something to add to that, Samoa Joe is horrible on the microphone.
Terrible.
Okay, last one. Toss-up. Which Ring of Honor wrestler finds more success in total nonstop action? Bryan Danielson or Nigel McGuinness?
Nigel McGuinness now, of course, going as Desmond Wolfe with an E in
Wolfie.
Wolfie in total nonstop action wrestling. This one's tough because technically Bryan Danielson hasn't even signed with TNA Wrestling. Here's what happened. WWE called up to a potential contract to Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness and said, we are going to sign you to a conditional contract, which means we're going to give you money and you're going to leave Ring of Honor Wrestling. And you are going to sit and you're going to wait until we decide whether we want you or not. And both of them did. Of course, they're still both on TV because Ring of Honor Wrestling is not live. It's taped and the shows are shown later on in the month. Mm-hmm. But since McGuinness has already debuted on Impact and already done some stuff, we've seen what he has. But we don't know if Danielson is actually going to sign because WWE said to both of them, okay, we decided that we don't want you anymore. So they're both free to do whatever they want. Danielson could very easily jump back to Ring of Honor Wrestling. That being said, if Bryan Danielson was to go to Ring of Honor Wrestling, I think that Nigel McGuinness would still be put more in the spotlight and more in main event situations because he's taller. Just because he's taller. And they have main event people there like Kurt Angle and Kevin Nash, and these people are main eventers and they are over 6 feet. End of story, which Nigel McGuinness is either at 6 feet or very close. Bryan Danielson, got to be 5'10", 5'11". He's going to go straight to the X Division, which I think is not necessarily a mismatch for him. I think he can have some great matches with the X Division guys. I would cry if he ever became the X Division champion because I don't think that's the type of belt he should have. The issue being is that the real television championship on that show is called the Legends belt. So just
no, it's the global.
Now it's the global
red strap belt.
Now being called the Global Championship by Eric Young, it still says Legends Champion on the belt in gold. So that's what I'm going to call it, at least for now. That could be another discussion, but I think that he would be more apt to hold their second tier championship, which is the Legends belt, which I don't think that someone who just walks into the company can kind of hold because of the fact that it's called the Legends belt, even though Booker T kind of just walked in and was the champion. Long story short, I'm going with Nigel McGuinness on this. I think he's a heck of a wrestler. I think he has a heck of a personality, and I think he is going to find more success in TNA Wrestling.
Okay, we're going to slightly disagree again. Desmond Wolfe, Nigel McGuinness, has already made his impact. He went right after Kurt Angle. He took him out. We haven't really seen him fail in anything that he's tried so far in his brief tenure with TNA. But should Bryan Danielson go over, I think that he's going to have more success, and I'll tell you why. I don't think that Desmond Wolfe is a guy that you're going to see win their world title, especially with Hogan taking over. If he brings in Rob Van Dam, if he brings in Stone Cold Steve Austin, where does that leave a guy like Desmond Wolfe? If you ask me, somewhat lost in translation. But if Bryan Danielson comes in, I think that he would take over their X Division. I think that he'd be champion fairly quickly and fairly prominently. I think he'd hold that belt for a while and put on some really spectacular matches, maybe Ultimate X, maybe Six Sides of Steel, put on some great shows, and I think that he would have longer lasting title runs and success in comparison to Nigel McGuinness.
Fair enough, fair enough.